The following podcast contains spoilers and explicit language. Listener discretion is advised. Hello and welcome to Animated Anarchy, the show where we take a look at animated movies of all kinds to determine the good and the bad. I am Andrew Dickman.
And I'm Mike Ruocco.
And today we have a very special episode because we have just watched a new movie. One that just came out like this weekend.
And tickles our animation fancy.
Well, and we like to do that when, a new animated movie comes around. Because we already did that with Hotel Transylvania too.
Which was good.
Yeah, so we like to be, as hip as possible with the newest trends.
With the times. We want to be caught up on all the new animation that's coming out.
Yeah, we want to be trendy. We want to know what the latest trend is. So it's going to be this, and then what comes up next? Zootopia. So
Good Dinosaur.
Oh, Good Dinosaur. When does Zootopia come out? No, that's
next year.
That's next year. Man, there's so many animated movies coming out that I'm just like
you lose track.
Lost. Isn't one coming out in December? I keep forgetting.
I don't remember. I know that Good Dinosaur is at the end of the month.
Yeah, Good Dinosaur. So that's Thanksgiving weekend, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez, that's coming up pretty soon, isn't it?
Yeah. Get fat on turkey and go to the movies and watch dinosaurs.
Yeah. We get to see a dinosaur talk like cowboys. We're gonna. I loved it because we were with a bunch of friends at.
We went with a big group.
Yeah. Well, you formulated this group
because I said
you were excited about this. Let me tell you something about Mike and this movie for a minute. Shit. I swear, since this movie was mentioned on some article or somewhere by someone, and I'm sure you're going to talk about your story behind it. But yeah, ever since this movie was mentioned, you have been like a little giddy child waiting for this movie to finally come about. And even while we all had like sushi before the movie.
Yeah, I was just like,
and you were shaking in your seat. It was like, guys, we got to get to the theater. I want to get good seats. I want to get the seats. And I was like, and you wanted to see it in 3D, and you wanted to this is the first movie I've seen in 3D because of you that I've seen since Avatar. And even that, had to someone had to put a knife behind my back in order to see that movie. So yeah, I had to put on the glasses and look at this movie, and I was like, we'll discuss that.
Yeah.
In a bit. But yeah, we were with a big group, and it was a lot of fun. We had a lot of our friends over, and
because I made a Facebook invite with a bunch of friends of mine, and I said, hey, I'm doing I know there's a bunch of people who want to go see this movie.
Yeah.
Why don't we get it? And I invited a bunch of people knowing that most of them probably wouldn't show up.
Yeah. And I got another invite from some of my friends as well.
I got like 3 other invites from people that same day.
I'm really wondering if it's because this movie is doing really well and word of mouth and people are really excited about it.
People were making them before the movie even came out. Like they had it like the night before, the morning before. Yeah. People were just excited to go see this movie.
Yeah, which honestly is kind of interesting to me. And I don't know if that speaks for our generation because this is kind of the stuff that we grew up with.
Yeah, maybe.
But even before our generation, I mean, it was a big thing. This is more of like, here we are. We're talking about the Peanuts movie.
Which we didn't even say the title yet.
No, we haven't.
People are like, what are they excited about?
What are they talking about? It's not like we read the title or anything. Yeah. It's like,
Oh, yeah, that's true. I forgot. Oh, God.
I wonder what this movie is about, and there's a big, poster of it right in front of it. It's like, and they just click on it, whatever it is.
Yeah.
That either shows loyalty or blind admiration.
Yeah. But yeah, we the movie we saw and we're going to discuss today. Mm-hmm. Well, we're actually going to discuss a little bit of we're going to try to encompass Peanuts.
Yeah,
as a whole.
we want to try to bring it in as a whole because it's a big thing in animation.
Yeah,
the Peanuts in general.
Yeah, and it's big. At least for me, Peanuts in itself. Is a big deal.
Yeah. Tell me about your childhood experiences with the Peanuts.
Oh, well, I was raised on Peanuts. Mm. That was my first, the first comic strip I ever read.
It's a lot of people's first.
Yeah, I mean, it
is literally the first comic strip on a lot of newspapers. It's like
it's usually the top of the page.
Yeah, it's right Garfield. There. The Sunday Funnies, bam, Peanuts is right there, and then Garfield's right underneath.
Yeah, so. It's always second banana to Snoopy.
Yeah,
but.
Poor Garfield, number 2, always.
All that his pile of money isn't nearly as big as Snoopy's.
Yeah.
But as a kid, I was raised on, I had a Peanuts household, Every Christmas, we'd watch the Peanuts Christmas special. We'd watch the Halloween and Thanksgiving ones. My oldest sister and I whenever I always get her something Peanuts related for Christmas, and she usually gets me something Peanuts related for Christmas.
Yeah, it's also very marketable.
Yeah, I was raised on there was the Charlie Brown and Snoopy show, the specials, I had the Snoopy snow cone maker, which a lot of kids had as a kid. I was raised in a Snoopy Charlie Brown.
I didn't even have that. I remember so many kids having like a snow cone maker, and I was just watching it
was the worst freaking thing on the planet, because the problem with the snow cone maker is that it had a little plastic handle that was only like so short, like a few inches long.
Yeah.
So when you're a little kid and you're putting in whole ice cubes to crunch, that bastard you could not turn that thing to crunch ice. You have to get an adult to do it for you, and then after crushing like maybe 20 ice cubes, you get maybe like a Dixie cup filled with ice. It was so bad. And but it was still really
seeing
cool.
all that stuff is like for me, I just saw the commercials of it. I was like, oh, I would love to have one of those, but I was like, nah.
I would get one just to put on a shelf, because it's just a big childhood memory for me. It's just having a Snoopy ice cone snow cone maker.
Yeah.
But I was raised on everything Peanuts.
Yeah, and you also have a Snoopy. You have a Snoopy phone.
So what
that's
happened
also
was,
a lamp.
There was a time.
Okay,
there was a point where I felt like I had these roommates that had a bunch of really cool stuff in their apartment. For a time, I felt like I had to almost compete with them and get cool stuff just to equal myself in the reins of.
I could see that. Yeah.
So one night, I think I was drunk one night.
Oh, you were drunk.
I was drunk, definitely. and just one day I come home and there's a huge package there. And I'm like, I don't remember ordering anything from eBay.
What's great is that you don't remember it.
I don't remember it.
That's the thing.
So then I open the box and it's this Snoopy and Woodstock phone lamp. It's a phone and a lamp from like probably the 1980s.
Yeah.
And
character phones were a big thing.
Oh yeah, yeah, and it's really cool. The problem is it's a broken phone. The cord is ripped, is bad.
That's
I got to replace it. But I'm like, why did I order I don't remember Oh yeah, I was drunk, and then I realized I drunkenly like that looked cool, and I spent maybe $30 for it, which is not a
that's
bad
actually
price
pretty good.
It's in pretty good condition too. I think the only thing I really need to do is I just need to go to
Reminds me of that goofy phone that I saw at a thrift shop. I should have gotten
where he's
that.
Breathing.
Yeah, where
like
he's asleep.
He's asleep,
and,
and his eyes open, and his stomach goes up and down. That's really cool.
But I didn't know if it would work. That's the problem.
Yeah.
I didn't know if I would get
it.
it.
My roommate at the time had a Mickey Mouse phone, but it was a hotel phone because it actually said call front desk, room service on it, which I thought was really neat. But I said, now I have a Snoopy phone, which I would like to use as a lamp because I think it would make a pretty good lamp. I don't have a landline, so I wouldn't use it as a number. If there's a way I can hook it up to my doorbell, so I can someone can call from the outside and I can just lift up the phone, that would be really neat. But but anyway, I was raised like Peanuts was my first major. Charles Schultz's work was probably my first major artistic influence. So whenever I drew characters for the longest time, I gave them these like parentheses eyes, like Linus and Lucy did.
Yeah.
Where they had the little parentheses marks on the side.
I see that, yeah. And then, it is a staple.
Right.
It's a real, it's a notable feature in a lot of the character designs.
And it's so charming. And then, the movies, there was like, Snoopy Come Home and A Boy Named Charlie Brown, Bon Voyage Charlie Brown and Don't Come Back, the River Raft Race movie, This Is Your Life Charlie Brown, I think it was called.
This is your life, Charlie
This is your,
Brown. This is your life, Charlie Brown.
Race for Your Life,
yeah,
Charlie
Race
Brown.
for Your Life.
And Don't Come Back. No, all of them end with and Don't Come Back. Snoopy Come Home and Don't Come Back. No, that doesn't make sense. But I loved Peanuts, and I collected all the anthology books when they come out and everything. And then I hear about this, that they're doing a Peanuts movie. And I'm like, okay, but how are they going to do it? And it's like, oh, it's going to be CG. And I'm like, oh, crap.
Yeah, that already gives you some bad vibes. As soon as you hear well, here's the thing. It's like it gives you some very bad taste in your mouth because we've already kind of lived in this world where we have seen comic strip based movies done. Over the Hedge is one of
Smurfs.
them. Smurfs.
Garfield.
Smurfs, Garfield, of course. What are some others? Marmaduke.
That doesn't even count. It's one of those talking animal movies. Same with Garfield in a sense.
Yeah, in a sense. But there's also been like CG direct to video.
Probably the closest thing to the closest thing to probably a decent comic adaptation movie are usually foreign movies, like movies that we don't get here, like the Asterix movies.
Yeah, that's true, actually. Yeah, but I mean, those are like foreign, French, European animated movies, and it's like I think there's like a deeper appreciation for those comic strips over there because. Well, obviously, it's like,
in Europe.
It's in Europe.
It's art to them.
But for here, it's like we've grown up with the comic strips and a lot, Marvel, DC, and stuff like that. I mean, the comic book type stuff gets a lot more attention.
And the comic strip stuff is kind of like just like a novelty, kind of fodder.
Yeah, and there's also like there's this air of I guess like there needs to be precision with it. It's like you have if you're gonna do this comic strip as a movie, then you really kind of have to do it right, or else there's going to be a stream of people who have grown up with this stuff who are saying, that's not that, or that's that's.
And then there's the reason that they say, well, at least this movie has given people exposure to the old stuff.
Yeah,
but at the same time, I've never met a single child because I've met after they came out with those Chipmunks movies.
Oh yeah,
after that movie, I have never heard a kid know like the Christmas song, or heard of the Alvin Show, or seen the Chipmunk Adventure.
Yeah, the '80s Alvin Show.
Like I had one of my cousins ask me. I went home for Christmas last year, and he asked me to draw Alvin.
Yeah,
and also a Ninja Turtle, and I'm like, I can draw, Mikey he's like, no, like this one. He takes out the plush doll, the Beanie Baby of the new Alvin. And the new Michelangelo from the new Ninja Turtles movie, and I was just like, "Oh no!" And I'm like, "What?" Yeah. And he knows like
that's not a Ninja Turtle.
Yeah, and it's so. But with this movie, I was just, and when I hear it was CG, I had a little bit of trepidation. And I heard it was Blue Sky, and I'm like, well, I know it's going to be animated really well, at least.
Well, yeah, but I mean, because Blue Sky has a really good track record with animation stuff. It's like, Horton Hears a Who was really good.
I enjoyed Horton Hears a Who.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people don't.
Well, the thing is like, I like parts of it. There are parts of it that I like, and there are parts of it that I don't like. Yeah. But that goes without saying, it was still really well done. I love Ice Age.
Yeah.
The first Ice Age
is great.
First Ice Age was probably like fantastic. Like it was one of the best movies at the time to come out that wasn't done by either DreamWorks or
Pixar
or Disney or Pixar or whatever.
And the thing about, I remember seeing the trailer for the first Ice Age, because the trailer was just the first 3 minutes of the movie of the Scrat versus that big iceberg that's after him. And I'm like, I remember then.
It was a pretty neat way to market it.
That was back in like 2000, 2001, 2002.
That was early.
And I remember looking at it and being like, oh my God, it looks like Wile E. Coyote. Yeah. I don't think it's going to get more cartoony than that. And then every time they come out with, say, a new Scratch short or a new Ice Age movie, the animation just gets better and better and better.
Speaking of, there was another Scratch short before this movie.
And I don't think it's I think the gags are very imaginative.
Yeah.
I think the animation is really good. It's
But you were saying, like, after that was done, is like, it's basically setting up it's setting up for the next movie that's coming out.
Yeah, well, they usually do a new Scratch short when they're prepared, because they're doing Ice Age 5.
Oh, oh my God! It is the fifth one.
It's the fifth movie, but it's been.
I was going to say 4.
Think about it. It's unlike Shrek, where it took them only like 6 or 7 years to do 4 movies. They're doing 5 movies. This has been almost 15 years.
Yeah.
So that's pretty
good. It's been going on for a while.
Every 3 or 4 years, they'll come out with a new Ice Age movie.
Yeah.
But I heard it was Blue Sky and with Peanuts and everything. I was just like, oh, okay. Because the thing about
it's one of those things. Is like when you hear about it, you're like, oh,
really?
Well,
yeah.
Well, okay, they're doing another thing like that. We'll see what happens when they show like some screenshots of it. Or something.
What happened was, I went 2 years ago. I went to CTN, and I met through my friend Kate Sullivan, who she knows a bunch of people. Like I think she interned for a while at Blue Sky back when I was in SVA in New York, and she introduced me to this animator named BJ Crawford. Find him on Vimeo. His stuff is amazing.
Yeah.
And I talked to him and I said, so you animate? I mean, because I love your 2D animation, but do you animate CG over at Blue Sky? And he goes, no. And I said, well, what do you do? What do you do? He's like, I animate 2D over there. And I'm like, but it's a CG studio. They don't do 2D. He's like, well, what I do is I animate as tests to see what the characters are going to move like, and then they send it off to the the
And
CG animators and the riggers and the modelers.
And I've seen a lot of that. It's like for I guess it was the fourth one, the Ice Age one, like the that monkey pirate guy.
Yeah,
it's like there was a lot of animation of that guy that wasn't done in 2D. And
Sid's honestly, grandma.
Yeah,
which is cool. There's a scene with Sid's grandma that was really
and I think that's a really neat way to go about animating, because it kind of gives you a sense of it gives you a traditional sense of how to animate characters.
Yeah,
you know, so if that's why a lot of Blue Sky stuff, it looks really just very wild, very
organic.
Almost like it's all everything is done in twos. It's not tweeny or anything. It's like it's just it moves very fluidly, and the illusion of life is a lot more believable.
Right. Like I have to it's weird to compare these studios, but like Pixar stuff is very emotional. They can do really good emotional animation.
Yeah.
But as far as animation goes, at least in most of their movies, there's nothing that really truly stands out in terms of animation outside of emotional pathos scenes.
Yeah, there's like I can pinpoint certain moments that are great, like just character interaction animation that is really nice,
really good stuff,
and it's subtle. I mean, stuff like that is subtle.
They're good at subtle animation.
Yeah, and that stuff is great. Like I love the scene where Mr. Incredible and Frozone are talking in the car together, and that's a great scene because they're just like they're just interacting with each other and talking about the old times, and it's like it's a human
genuine
thing. It's very genuine, and it's like one character is like very boisterous about his movements, and it's like and then the other one's just like listening, like that's really funny. It's like stuff like that is like, I mean, it's subtle, but it's really well done, and I love that.
Yeah, and you look at Pixar and they're good at that, and then you see like DreamWorks is good at all around. They're really good.
Mm-hmm.
They're kind of like Pixar plus a little bit in terms of how they handle character interaction.
In a sense, I would say that DreamWorks is a little bit more realistic. Like they have grown to be a little bit more open, like with their animation, like very like
the styles
extravagant
vary.
style.
Unlike Pixar, everything exists in the same general universe.
Kind of does,
While in a DreamWorks movie, you get a movie that looks like Kung Fu Panda, which looks different and moves differently than, say, the Madagascar movies.
I think when DreamWorks started, the first couple movies were kind of like, they're all kind of like in the same vein. Like, they all look a little bit too real, you know? And
but now they're diversifying a bit.
Yeah, I think it's great that as they moved on, they've kind of like evolved into something a little bit more unique. You know, per movie.
Right.
So that's really neat to look at.
And then you look at Sony, and like the stuff they've been doing lately is really rubbery and fun, but it's very graphic. You know, it doesn't feel I'm not saying there isn't warmth in it. I'm just saying that it moves cartoony for the sake of it being graphic and cartoony.
Yeah,
and it's fun to watch. But then you look at Blue Sky, and you get that organic. Really, like the animation is so top. I mean, if I had to rank top CG animators, like now Disney CG is doing really good. Like the stuff the stuff they did in Tangled and Frozen and
Wreck-It
Ralph was brilliant. Great top-notch animation all around. But you look at Blue Sky and it's organic, it's rubbery, but it's also cartoony, yet it feels real and emotional. Like it has a warmth there. Like it combines almost all the studios into one, and they're all those animators there are like powerhouses. They're all great. I mean, as much as I thought the movie was boring, Epic, the animation Epic is really good. Like it's really fantastic, and Robots is really imaginative, even though it's not the best movie.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like they're great ideas.
Yeah,
you know, it's like there's some great there's some great stuff and great design, great animation.
Yeah,
great character stuff. It's just like I think the weakest part of most of the early Blue Sky stuff was story.
Yeah, and I found out that Blue Sky has a very specific way of making movies.
That's right.
Compared to most other studios, and it's pretty evident, especially when you look at movies like Robots, Ice Age, the later Ice Age movies.
Later Ice Age, yeah.
The Horton Hears a Who to an extent. Is that what they do is they come up with, or definitely in the Rio movies for sure.
Oh yeah.
What they do is they kind of almost they have an outline, and they pre-plan out. And they start boarding and animating and getting ready for 5 what I would call tent pole sequences in the movie. Fun, like either a dance scene, an action scene, a climactic scene, a chase scene.
Stuff that is almost like a test, you know?
Yeah,
like, it's like, you know, stuff that you could make for the trailer.
Yeah, standalone sequences that are like, they just stand out for trailer stuff. And then
they're great sequences. I mean,
they're really fun. Like, a lot of the stuff in Ice Age is fantastic.
But the thing is like, it's basically connecting the dots.
Yeah, and then they
have
like, these 4 or 5 sequences, and then they have to make bridging material to connect them.
Yeah, it's like they made the keyframes, and now they have to do the in-betweens, and sometimes the in-betweens aren't as good as the keyframes.
Right, exactly. So and the thing is, most of their movies, to an extent, especially, the Ice Age movies are usually travel movies where they're traveling.
Yeah.
So it is episodic. It's them going and dealing with the situation, and then fade to black or cut to the next day or later, and there's something else going on, or you cut away to someone else and you find out what they're doing. Like, that's how their movies work. And
I
then
actually have to see because I have not seen anything after the second one. I
think there's elements that are good.
I don't even think I saw the second one.
Well, there was the second one.
Was that the one where he falls in love?
The meltdown. Where it begins to melt, and there's he meets the girl mammoth.
Okay, that is the one. Okay,
then
I haven't seen that one.
I guess you're gonna have to watch 3 Ice Age movies.
Yeah, well, when the 5th one comes out, then I'm gonna have a marathon.
You have to go back
because I love the first one. The first one had like such a heartwarming story to it.
I love that movie. Yeah, but the movies themselves though are very episodic in nature, and I'm like, when I heard that Blue Sky was doing, I'm like, at the part of me was like, well, it's Peanuts.
Yeah.
And the thing about Peanuts, and I've said this before to people, is that I don't think story was really key to Peanuts. I don't think, if you look at their movies, personally, I don't think their stories are really that great. I think it was really about just character studies and character interaction.
Yes, exactly. It's about a bunch of like things that happen to these kids. That is just like... It is like a comic strip, you know. It's like it's a sequence of events that happen in this one scenario that are just like it's a funny idea, you know. And then that ends. It basically draws out until the gag at the end, and then it kind of moves on to the next thing. It's like, oh, haha, that was funny with these two characters, what they said. And now let's move on to the next.
We spent some time with Lucy and Schroeder. Now we're gonna go see what Peppermint Patty and Marcy are up to. Now Charlie Brown with the kite, and then we're gonna go see what Linus and Snoopy with his blanket, or something like that.
And that's kind of what happened in this movie.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. Which honestly, to their credit, it's like
it benefited it.
It benefited, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it still had a driving story where you really are just following Charlie Brown, but then you have little detours where you spend a couple minutes with Peppermint Patty and Marcy, or with Sally, or with Lucy.
It felt like a novelization of a kid's life, you know, basically, you know. The things that would happen during a school year.
Diary of a Wishy-Washy Kid.
Yeah, there's like the book report, there's the dance, there's the talent show, and all that stuff kind of like it came together in the end.
Yeah.
You know, but like all together, it's like it's a bunch of different events that don't really seem like they would fit together, but they do. It's still in a sequence, and then you cut into these interstitials with Snoopy, and those are fun.
Yeah,
and it kind of almost fits in the same way. It almost mirrors kind of Charlie Brown in a way. Yeah. In a way where it's like
he's inspired by Charlie Brown's plight.
Yeah,
to write "It's a Dark and Stormy Night" and start writing.
Snoopy's imagination basically becomes like Charlie Brown's life in real life, but I mean, like it's
they intertwine with each other. Snoopy and Charlie Brown's story are intertwined, and I wanted to finish my story about B.J. Crawford. So I met him at CTN, and I asked him, "What do you do at Blue Sky?" And he says, "Well, I animate traditionally." And I'm like, "But it's a CG studio." He's like, "Well, I do tests of the characters." I'm like, "That's like their dream job."
Yeah.
To work at a CG studio, and be a 2D animator, but just do 2D animation for studies and stuff.
Yeah.
That's a cool job.
That is a really neat job, actually, when you think about it.
I said, "What are you working on now?" This was 2 years ago. This was in 2013. I said, "What are you working on now?" And he's like, "The Peanuts movie." And I was like, "Huh." And he goes, "Yeah, I know. There's a little trepidation there, but don't worry, it's going to be great."
Yeah.
I said, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Well, we're studying the old specials and we're animating them like they did in the specials." I said, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Well, we're only showing the characters from the angles that Charles Schultz drew them in.
Yep.
There's no middle drawing. We're going to pop from one pose to another. It's going to be on 2s and 3s."
Yeah.
And I said, "Get the hell out of here." Blue Sky, the most organic, loose studio, are going to do like this kind of choppy '60s limited animation style.
It kind of reminded me of like watching the Lego Movie, how they made it look like it was a stop motion thing,
exactly,
where they had missing frames in between certain animations, and you really notice it in this one, but it works for it.
Oh,
it's really, they looked like these flat clay models,
and
that were on like a diorama of some sort, and it really helped because we watched this in 3D.
I mean, it really felt like you were in a little diorama.
Yeah, like the viewfinder things.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying. I said, "What?" And he's like, "Do you remember those old ViewMaster slides? The ones you put them in and you click the button and you flip?" And I said, "Yeah." And he's like, "It's going to look like that, but in motion." But of the Peanuts characters. I'm like, that sounds really cool.
Yeah.
When did we get to see any footage of that? It's like, well, they're probably going to come out with a trailer soon. But just stay. You'll see. It'll be online.
Open mind,
And I'm like, wow. And it kind of got me kind of pumped about it, the way he told me about it. So then a few months later, they came out with the trailer where it's just Charlie Brown's head and it plays like the 2001 music.
A lot of people were saying, it's like, oh god, that hair.
Why is there a big pubic hair?
Yeah, there's a huge it
hair.
just starts with the hair.
And but I saw the animation and I'm like, oh my god. And I got so pumped. I watched it again and again and again, just freeze framing it. And I'm like, they're putting like 2D animation elements over the animation, like squiggles and dizzy lines and all that stuff.
It almost felt like, it was like traditionally animated, but it was
dimensionalized.
Graphically, dimensionalized. It was like they took like clay textures and just like put that over animation, and then what was really great is like when they had different eyes and everything, like the Snoopy eyes, they looked like the drawn Snoopy eyes, and you don't see that in CG anymore.
I know.
You always see the damn Pixar eyes.
Yeah.
And that was like the one thing that I was really happy about, is that they did not make the eyes like super detailed.
Yeah, well they did, but the thing is, if you look in the close-up scenes,
there
is an iris.
No, I didn't see that.
But the thing is, that's just it. They were like, it looked like there was probably like a note. There was probably a note from someone's like, give them realistic eyes. And they're like, well, that's not what makes Peanuts Peanuts. And then they made it mostly black.
They hit it,
and then there was
really
a millimeter, the tiniest little sliver of an out edge of an eye.
It wasn't noticeable at all.
But you didn't notice
noticeable at all.
Even like you look at like Charlie Brown's shirt.
Even in the close-ups, I didn't see that. It was like, it was really well blended.
It was graphic enough.
Yeah.
And like even you look at if you see
it just looked like it just looked like a button. You know,
like a little button eye,
like with a shine to it,
like a Winnie the Pooh eye.
Yeah, exactly.
And even like the clothes have like knitting in it, and the shoes have
there were
detail
still
in
textures.
It. But from a mid shot or even a close up, you don't really notice it.
No,
and especially from far away. When
they were close up, it wasn't like you could see every damn pore in Charlie Brown's face. No, that wasn't anywhere.
Right.
There.
And it was lit really well. And so I was like, well, the animation I know is going to be fantastic.
Yeah.
The animator's doing a great job, but at the same time, I still had that trepidation of, well, I don't imagine this movie being the story being that great, because I don't think the Peanuts stories are really that great. I think it's more about just the character stuff, which I'm totally fine with. Mm-hmm. And going in thinking like this is just going to be I didn't think like they're going to throw in really bad adult gags and stuff like that. Fart jokes.
Here's the thing. When you're trying to be really true about something that back then was really big, but at the same time it was a little mediocre.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, this is still great. We love it because it's really memorable and it's charming and everything like that, but it's still like really mediocre. And you're doing that for an audience today, that like will probably send off a lot of red flags, because first off, there's probably going to be a lot of involvement with a lot of hands in the pot, you know. It's like where something's gonna happen to these characters, something they're gonna want, like probably let's make him do something that we don't normally see him do in the comics at all, and that is what you really worry about, you know. It's like, oh god, what are they gonna make him do? What kind of poppy musical number are they gonna like connect this with today?
And I think we all had that feeling going into this, and then we sat down, and the movie starts, and first of all, the movie begins with the 20th Century Fox logo, and it's Schroeder playing the theme on the piano, and it was great. And then the first thing you see is the snow being drawn with the Schultz line, and then you hear Vince Guaraldi's original recordings of the music, and you're like, they're being freaking.
That gave me chills.
Yeah.
Actually, like when that happened, I was like, "Oh, that's such a cute. I love that song."
Yeah.
And, you know,
and
like,
it's so. And I was like, "Oh,
there's
really
a nostalgia
trying.
factor to
Right.
that." So I mean that helps. And I'm kind of wondering. I really am kind of wondering, like, how kids today react to the Peanuts. You know, like the Peanuts that are what they are, what they have been for the past, like,
50, 60 years.
60 years, yeah. And it's like they haven't changed. They're really timeless. You know, because it's like the entire concept of the Peanuts has never really been of an era. It's like when you watch the cartoon movies, there is this air of like 70s sort of feeling to it.
60s and 70s, yeah.
But it still feels like it could
exist today.
Work today because it's just, you know, a regular suburban town. There's no real there's no references to the era or
it's not blatant, and it's like this takes place in circa Americana this year.
Oh, except for Flash Beagle.
Probably. Well, that was, I will say, my only disappointment about this movie was that there was no reference to Flash Beagle.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows? There might be a reference in the background that I missed. That I didn't know. Kids dancing Flash Beagle.
I don't know.
Dance.
There was Joe Cool.
There was Joe Cool in it. But I just was so overwhelmingly, like, it brought, like, watching this movie for some reason brought me back to sitting in front of the TV with my oldest sister watching Charlie Brown Christmas again.
And that's a good feeling.
Which is like, and the thing is, first of all, the movie itself, from an art and animation scene, it was the most refreshing thing since maybe Lego Movie. And that was 2 years ago.
Yeah, yeah.
Just seeing a movie that doesn't freaking look like every other animated movie is so refreshing to me.
It is.
And the fact that they were faithful to the source material, which
very faithful.
Very faithful.
I was like shocked at how faithful it was.
2, how much they referenced the old stuff, but in a very not like over your head, like I'm gonna hit you over the head with the kite eating tree.
Yeah,
like stuff like they're referencing it, but they're not.
It was there, and then there were lines like Lucy says, like I was licked by a dog.
Get some disinfectant, get some iodine.
Yeah,
it's lines like for someone who's never seen Peanuts before.
Yeah,
that's a great intro. It's not. It's an introduction to that.
Yeah.
But to someone who grew up with them.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like we were watching it and we knew this stuff.
Yeah,
and it was great to see. And there was new stuff in there too that was really fun and very interesting, visually. And then I'm thinking about all the people who have not seen Peanuts before to watch this, and I was saying, it's like I would think that they would see this as charming. You know, it's like today, with all of the animation and the stuff that we've seen in today's world, Peanuts is something that can be enjoyed for generations. Yeah. And it's great that they didn't pander to this generation for the sake of it being this generation. Yeah. You know, it's like they actually kept it true to what it really was. Yeah. And because it is timeless. Yeah. There's like absolutely, there's nothing dated about it.
Right. And the thing is also, it's very similar to stories like Huck Finn or Tom Sawyer.
Yeah.
Where you love it, and if you look at it over the course of your life, as a little kid, you enjoy it because it's cute Charlie Brown and Snoopy's doing cute things. You get older and you start to appreciate it on a different level, but you still appreciate it as much as you did as a kid. Yeah, and then you get even older and you look at it again and you're like, so it doesn't really, it caters to every demographic of people, little kids, adults, sophisticated adults, you know, young children.
And it's funny because it's like, as adults, we see these kids, it's like, wow, these are really depressing philosophical children. Yeah. And as kids, they just say, it's like, oh, that is totally us.
Yeah. And the thing is, and on top of that, speaking of children, the cast in this movie.
Yeah, that was really nice. They sounded like almost exactly like the old Peanuts characters from the first.
Right, like
Linus sounded like Linus. It's like, well, here's the thing: the characters in the Peanuts series, all the cartoons, they had like a certain
cadence to their.
Yeah, you could tell that was a Linus voice. He kind of had like a little nasal to his voice, and he also like kind of like had like. No, like I can't even do it.
Well, like
it's really
every
difficult because I'm not a kid.
Yes, each character sounds distinct.
Yes,
there's something almost shy and timid
Peppermint Patty
about
and Marcy and
Lucy's very her mouth is very big.
Yeah,
and Charlie Brown has a quality to it. Like they all have very specific qualities in the voice, in the what they call the timbre.
Yeah, if I was a voice actor, I would probably pinpoint like more what the kind of sounds are, but seriously, listening to them, it's like you can tell. It's when you have watched the old cartoons and you're watching this new movie, it's like, wow, that is pretty spot on. That is like, listening to someone do a Mickey Mouse voice that isn't Walt Disney, but do it really well. It's like, it's not really them, but what comes out of their mouth is like, wow, that's them. Yeah. That's them. That's Lucy. That's Charlie Brown.
The casting was brilliant. Like whoever did the casting says that sounds like Marcy. That sounds like Charlie Brown.
And the only thing that they really kept from the original cartoons was Snoopy and Woodstock.
Bill Melendez's recordings of the characters.
Which was great because, there's so much of that stuff already from the older recordings. So it's only fitting, and it really worked with it.
Yeah, it really was great. And for me, being a huge Charles Schultz fan, the not only the art, but just the it felt so faithful on an artistic level, on a tonal level. It felt like, you can't say.
Yeah, these models were basically broken apart. They didn't keep to one model and just move them with splines and whatever.
Yeah,
they actually had pieces that were kind of like almost like kind of cutouty almost, like when the arms were like up like this. Yeah. They really looked like the drawing, but it's like they kept them, and they were really good at like popping them back when they had their arms down, when they had the arms up, when they turned, when they moved around. It was like, that was really brilliant. It was a great way to kind of like cheat animation in a sense.
Like the characters talking.
Cheat CG animation,
Which is so great to see. It's refreshing to see some CG that looks like 2D.
Yeah. And I'm really curious how they did that. I would love to see the process.
Yeah. Like, the fact that when Charlie Brown or any of the characters talk from the side, they have this huge gap. Yeah. If you see that from any other angle, it probably looks like Pac-Man. Like opening just this big wide mouth that goes all the way out to the sides of their face. But it looks so... They matched almost as if they were like they took an image from the comic strip, put it in their file, and just matched it to that.
And here's the thing, it's like it still felt like they had dimension.
Yeah.
And that was like a feat that I found really well done. It's seeing CG characters in a traditional sense was really refreshing. Yeah. And I was like really happy to see that. And throughout the entire movie, I was like waiting for something that didn't look right, or really like, are they really going to do like maybe like a 360 shot where they make them turn or anything, or a slow motion thing? It's like, no, they didn't have any of that.
Yeah.
And that was like
refreshing.
Things like, if I was watching an Adam Sandler movie, there would be a list of things that I would look for. And unfortunately, there would be like a checklist where it's like, okay, check. I had a list of things in my mind when I was watching this movie and thinking like, okay, I'm going to wait for the scene, where the part where, they do this slow motion scene. It's like, no, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
And that is great when you when you watch a movie and it's... I didn't really have expectations of this movie. Like I didn't really go into it saying like, oh, I think this is going to be bad. Oh, I think this is going to be really good. I really came into it with an open mind. But at the same time, it's like there are those things, those cliches, those tropes that you kind of look for because you've seen them so many damn times already. And it was great that didn't happen.
Right.
So, bravo.
Right. I mean, like before the movie, we saw the trailer for the new Chipmunks movie. It was a 2-minute trailer, and it hit every cliche in the book.
Yeah.
And we were all groaning, and then even our friend Aaron just yelled, "Boo!"
Yeah.
Like at the screen, and half the audience laughed. It was great.
Yeah.
And it was like our sentiments exactly, you know.
Yeah.
But another thing about this movie that
that theater must have been full of animators, by the way.
Yeah, that was great. I mean, people were literally oohing and eyeing at scenes. And even like and the thing I love also about it is that at this point I get so dizzy watching an animated movie these days because they have to turn the camera into a character,
especially in 3D.
In 3D. So in this movie, the camera isn't a character. They limit the camera to what they did maybe in the specials. There is a Z plane coming towards you and away from you, up and down, left and right. That's it. No zooming in, and even like the scenes with like Snoopy.
I think most of it was just pans and like
pans and zooms and very little in terms of zoom,
right?
Even, but even the scenes with Snoopy, because the most dynamic scenes of the movie is when Snoopy goes into World War I flying ace mode, going after the Red Baron, and there are these chase scenes where I've always, I guess because of Peanuts, I always loved the idea of seeing a wonderful. I always wanted to play a decent video game or watch a decent movie about aerial World War I dogfighting. And this movie had those moments in it, and I felt happy. And even those scenes where there's planes twirling and flying around, they maintain the camera at a very stable kind of way, so that you're not like dizzy and the camera isn't going all over the screen.
And it's really funny because like the entire time those scenes were happening, Snoopy's like plane, his house, was still on the bottom of the screen. Yeah. You never saw the bottom underside of the plane, of it.
Which is so brilliant. That, like the fact that they had to sit down and be like, we have to shoot this really dynamic dogfight scene.
How are we
now
gonna
that
do
we're
this?
in CG, we can do
it provides a weird challenge, but I mean, it worked.
Yeah,
I mean,
and it's like, because the thing is, in the original special, like with like what was it, The Great Pumpkin, which is when the first time he did the flying ace stuff. They only show him from left and right, and then even the loop was even cheated.
Yeah.
In this movie, they can do all that, but it's like, but to be faithful, we have to work with the restrictions of the strip and the characters and the style,
which gives it its charm. It's like, it's not like, this is a movie. This has to be extravagant. We have to see the entire thing move around and do loop-de-loops, and we have to see the underside of it.
Yeah.
No, they kept it. They kept it as a challenge.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, how can we make this work while keeping it faithful to?
Yeah.
You know, but also making it dynamic and epic.
It was creatively.
And my God, it was really, really adventurous and epic. I mean, that every time those scenes came about, it was. I hate to say this, I was on the edge of my seat about it because they were really fun to watch.
Yeah, it was creatively exhilarating.
Yeah,
just even from just watching and being like, they went there.
Yeah,
that's really cool. And then another thing too is that throughout the movie, because there's moments where Charlie Brown has his story, then you cut to Snoopy, and Snoopy goes back into his imagination and becomes the flying ace. And
they did a lot of that where they cut back in and out sometimes to.
And then there's moments in the movie where Charlie Brown is thinking or something, and it turns to 2D. And B.J. Crawford, who I mentioned before, did this.
It was like
wonderful.
It was the thought bubble.
And you see it. You can see it in the trailer. If you watch the trailer where Charlie Brown's on the fence and he's thinking about himself and all his past failures, it's. I mean, and I grew up on the movies, the specials, and I love them.
Yeah.
They don't look anything like Charles Schultz's drawings. Seeing that, his drawings were literally alive, and they were moving. And yes, there's a part of me that says, "Man, I would have loved to have seen a whole movie that looks like that." But at the same time, even the fact that it's CG, it's so faithful to Schultz's work, his style, his line, everything, that I don't have that feeling like, oh, I wish it was 2D. I'm happy that it's CG because you get you're getting a different element from it, but it's not detracting from the charm of what Charles Schultz's line work or his artwork was. And even like, I remember being in college and doing animation tests for myself and saying, man, when I animate, I want to put in when a character gets shocked, because I grew up reading comic strips. I want to have a thought bubble or an exclamation point appear above their head, or a ploods come off their head.
Yeah.
And I had teachers tell me, it's so distracting. No one likes that. Don't do it. And I'm like, it's not distracting. And I had to convince people. And then in this movie, they do it. They have wham comes up in big letters on the. There's little squiggly lines that come off the characters.
A lot of hearts and like
hearts. There's a scene where Sally goes into the snow and her hearts because she's seeing All My Sweet Babu, which is his line is, she goes into a snowdrift and the hearts make indents in the snow. And I'm like, that's so cool.
Pigpen Smoke was really neat.
His dust cloud.
Dust cloud was really cute, and they did a good job at taking the elements of the Peanuts and implementing them into this 3D world that they created, and it was just really faithful. Really, just I will say that your poster that you have in your house is justified.
Yeah, I bought about a month and a half ago. I went to Movie World, which is this bookstore / they sell posters it's in downtown Burbank.
Yeah.
And I went in there and they have a poster for the Peanuts movie, and it's all these children in an audience. And I wanted, because I just moved into the apartment and I wanted to get some stuff to hang up. Just movie posters that I like from movies that I like, but also because they're visually interesting. That if you're sitting in a chair and you're looking at it, you're like, I could stare at that poster for 5 minutes and I'm catching something new.
Which explains the Over the Hedge
and the Grover Dangerfield in the bathroom.
By the way, I was in your bathroom the other day, and being there as I was looking straight at this Over the Hedge poster, I came out of there saying like, Mike, I fucking hate you. Because I was sitting there looking at this poster, and now I am just looking at the damn texture of
the leaves,
and I am pinpointing all of the spots where they basically loop.
Yeah.
And I hate you for that so much.
Gives you something to do.
No.
While you're in the restroom.
I don't want to be in the bathroom longer than I have to be.
But so I got this poster, and it was a little premature because I didn't know what the movie was going to be like yet. I knew the animation would be great.
Yeah, we were joking. It's like, are you going to take that down if the movie is really bad?
I'm so glad it's good because it's a great poster, and
it's a great poster because it has like a ton, like all of the Peanuts characters,
all of them, like
included,
even like the dog, like Snoopy's brothers
and
sister and stuff, Spike and the fat dog, and
which was really cute. I mean that we warned of spoilers before, but they do show up.
Yeah, they do show up,
which is great.
Yeah, and there's a lot of surprises and little, and for me being like an animation history or a comic strip geek. Mm-hmm. There's a scene in the movie where Charlie Brown recommends a comic strip book of Sparkplug, Barney Google, Snuffy Smiths, and Sparkplug.
Yeah,
and I was like, and even like I bet everyone around me
was
just like, what the hell?
You outwardly go like, yeah, you were outwardly going,
oh, because I'm like, that is such a great little reference because that was a comic strip that Charles Schultz was. Like when he was born, his uncle says, "I'm gonna name that kid Sparkplug after the horse." So everyone in his life, all his friends, called him Sparky.
Yeah,
which is like that's such a great little.
And it didn't really hit me until you went "aw," and I was like, "What do you?" Oh,
yeah. Yes. And I'm like, "What a great little acknowledgement," because no one would have.
That was a great nod.
And there's a lot of it in this movie.
There was a lot of love. Like seriously, there was a lot of love and respect in this movie.
The moving truck has Mendelsohn and Melendez moving on it, which I thought was so cool. And I just was completely. I mean, going in and then leaving that theater feeling so satisfied. There's nothing better than going to a movie with an expectation that's maybe lower, or having something that the animation is going to be great, and I hope to God it's great. I hope this movie is great. I don't want to be disappointed.
Yeah,
I went in and left that theater feeling a lot. I mean, I was already excited to begin with. I was so happy.
How many moments? Okay, like usually movies, I get very emotional about certain scenes, and it doesn't really take a whole lot, but I've noticed with a lot of movies, if I don't cry at a certain point, then it really hasn't touched me.
Yeah.
This movie touched me so many times that I was like in tears. Like seriously, just the ending got me so bad. But I was like tearing up at certain moments of this because it was like it wasn't so much the nostalgia factor, but it was the feeling that these characters are really emotional, wonderful characters.
Yeah.
And like people will, you would have to be dead to not feel for these characters at all.
And just we all felt that way. Everyone was in silence at the end of that movie.
Yeah.
And it was so great, and I was just so taken aback because the thing about Charlie Brown is that he is a perpetual loser.
Yeah.
But the thing that makes him so likable...
He's a lovable loser.
Is that, he's a lovable loser, but the thing that makes him so likable is that he has not only the best intentions in the world, but also because he just he gets knocked off his horse, but he keeps getting right back on again. Even though he
does his best, even though it like breaks apart in the end.
Like even though he sucks at baseball and he sucks at flying a kite and he sucks at almost everything, he still tries.
Damn, does he try? Yeah.
And then in this movie, there's a whole. I mean, in a way, I doubt people are going to be listening to this without watching the movie. But God, go see this movie.
And if you haven't, go see it.
Please see this movie because I really don't want to spoil anything about this movie.
No.
I mean, there's things I want to talk about, but at the same time, I don't really want to spoil this movie.
Yeah.
In fact, I want to go see this freaking movie again.
Yeah.
I want to see this movie. I mean, first of all, I hope this movie, and I've said it before, I hope this movie makes bank.
Yeah.
I hope it makes a lot of money. One,
because this weekend, like also Spectre
comes out, which is a $300 million nightmare of a movie. Which is like, how are they going to get their money back?
Yeah.
But this movie is so charming and so simple. And like, there's a few movies that I love. I love going to a movie and not seeing a 3-act structure movie. This movie isn't a 3-act structure. I mean,
You're right. Yeah, no. This movie does, and it's not even all over the place. It really is
a day in the life,
beginning to end movie. And it's like a slice of life movie, you know,
right?
And you're following basically a full year or full school year of these kids and like what's going on with them, and it works really well. It's like once this act ends, it's that's over, and then they move on to the next one, which is what a lot of it is like a comic strip.
Yeah,
it's like the scenario works. It's like they finished this scene and now it's moving on to the next one, and then that's a little story in itself, but in the end it all connects. Yeah. So it worked really well, and I was one. Fox is down! Fox is down!
I dropped an action figure of Fox McCloud from Star Fox 64, and now he's staring at me on the ground, and I feel really guilty. Oh, Lord.
You killed Fox.
I just completely derailed this wonderful.
Yeah,
we're all like in awe of this movie, and suddenly I just drop a video game character onto the ground by accident, and I feel really sorry for him.
But yeah, sincerely, we really recommend this movie because it is probably one of the best, well-made, most respectable animated features that I've seen in a long time, and especially since it's based off of something.
Right.
So, and it's like when a movie is based off of something, it's good to have some sort of liberties depending on how it is. With this one, it's great that they kept it respectable and true to the original like animated features of the past,
right?
And the comic strip. So it really helped it in that regard.
Yeah, there was a limitation there. Like, they were trying to be as faithful as possible. But even when they took liberties, they were faithful liberties. Yeah. Like, I didn't feel like... Even, like, there's a moment where Charlie Brown is learning to dance, and Snoopy's teaching him how to dance. And there's a moment where Charlie Brown does the chicken dance.
Yeah.
And even that was like, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
I
didn't have a problem with that.
And even another thing,
it wasn't like Jar Jar Binks came in and started doing like
Misa
some
going home or something.
Like, no, it was really well done, and I'm very certain that there were probably a lot of jokes where they said like, no, we can't do that. That's a little bit too extreme, or maybe let's dial this one back a little bit.
Yeah.
And maybe there were some moments where they said like, let's push it a little bit, and it still worked. So it was good that they knew their limitations and they knew what the source material was. Yeah. So it was a really well made movie, and it showed like they had a lot of love for the material.
Everybody did, animators, storyboard people. Everybody looks like, and it definitely shows on the screen that they tried so hard. To be faithful to the work of Charles Schulz. And another thing too, and on a note of the music, there are moments in the movie. Well, a lot of times they'll use original Vince Guaraldi recordings. There'll be times where they'll make new compositions based on Vince Guaraldi's recordings, the score, which is great. And then there are moments where, yes, they will play what would be the equivalent of a pop song. But unlike a movie like Home, or even in Wreck-It Ralph, where there's a whole sequence where the music is as high as possible, where it's driving it. Whenever you think that because you hear the pop song start,
like it's going to turn into a montage of some sort,
right? And you hear the music, and you're like, part of you is just like, oh,
yeah.
But then what happens is when you think the music is going to escalate and take over, and it's going to be like some Christina Aguilera singing or something. It's as if the movie takes it and just sort of pushes it back down again instead of raising the volume up.
It basically helps. The music actually helped accentuate the scene,
right?
And it didn't really overtake it.
Yeah,
and that's an important thing about using music. Is like you really need to know when to push it up and when to keep it like on the down low,
right?
Because and don't let it overtake, because if the music starts to overtake the scene and it doesn't fit with it, it's really going to be distracting compared to... You're going to pay attention more to the music than you are to what's happening in the scene.
And also, they use that music appropriately. Like, they play it
in
the dance. Like, there's a school dance. And they play some music there. And it's like, I can understand them playing a song like that at the dance. It makes sense. It doesn't bother me as much as, like, Home. Like, I'm gonna say this now about two things. One, Home was terrible for the opposite reason. They would play the music up. Even if there was an emotional scene, they would lower the volume on the actors' voices and just raise the Rihanna song music up. Because they're like, we got to make up for the fact that this is a sad scene where it's slowing down. We got to bump that music up, which is so distracting and awful.
Yeah.
And
I haven't seen Home.
Home
so.
is probably the worst animated film I've seen this year. For many reasons.
Did that come out this year?
This year, yeah.
Huh.
It was like early this year.
Oh, wait, you're right.
And
yeah. Okay.
I'm going to say this now. This is my personal opinion. This movie, Peanuts movie, to me is the best animated film I've seen all year. I mean, I still have to give it a few days to let it sink in because I only just saw it yesterday.
Right.
But yes, Inside Out, in a sense, is a much better movie. It's a more emotionally grounded movie. There's some really strong emotion in it, and I think it's original in how it's handled. And I think it's a really fantastic movie. But for some reason, this movie caters to me on an artistic level, on a childhood level, on all these levels.
Well, to me, Inside Out was a great movie, and it's one of the best Pixar movies that I've seen in a long time. Because like I feel like Pixar is kind of, even though they do good movies, I feel like they haven't reached a level that they used to have. And I've seen that in a lot of things up till Inside Out, which is an original movie, original idea, and I liked it. I liked it a lot, and it felt really, really nice to me.
It was It felt genuine.
Yeah, it's genuine. That's the word I'm looking for. It really felt genuine to me. This one feels even more genuine. It does not feel like it's catering to anyone. It doesn't feel like it's like there's nothing really fake about it. It really feels like a feel good, just charming look at these kids' lives.
Yeah.
And in a way where they kept it faithful to the comic strips, and that's not really what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for the nostalgic factor. I'm looking for the fact of the matter is this a good story? Does this touch my heart? Does this really feel right?
Yeah.
And everything about it to me really felt right. It's like these characters were just so charming. If I have not seen these characters before, I would fall in love with them again.
Yeah.
It's like I would really just fall in love with them, and I would look back at the comic strips and love them.
Yeah.
So yeah,
on the same.
And I know that's really high praise right now, but I really do feel like that because I'm trying to think of this in like an outside perspective. Like I've really been thinking, like, if I was a kid today, would I really enjoy something like this? And I don't know about a lot of kids today, but me personally, if this was me as a kid today watching this, I would love this movie because it just really felt heartfelt.
Yeah, and it speaks to us, I think,
in
that sense.
Yeah.
And story to
and
me,
as adults, it also speaks back to them because it brings you back. You know,
right.
it's like
and I love. I mean, I don't care if it's an action movie, 3-act structure, basic by the book movie. If it's engaging, I love it. I get roped into the story as much as possible and the characters as much as possible. Because to me, that's the most important thing is the characters.
Yes.
And this movie works on that level, but also
it had a lot of characters.
And like I said, I love the idea of a slice of life story where it's just like, look, I just want to see how Charlie Brown lives his life. And there's a few movies to me, like Ernest and Celestine, the Winnie the Pooh movie, like the original and the one from 2011. These slice of life-ish movies, these movies that they're not, there's no volcano chases.
Yeah, there isn't going to be like some like huge cataclysmic thing that's going to, that the characters have to
This
fix.
character isn't going on a journey. It's just takes place in this little closed in the case of it's like either the 100-acre wood or this little forest or this small town, or in this case, the suburbs of the Peanuts neighborhood. It doesn't, I don't want to see Charlie Brown or Snoopy go on a journey. I don't want to see them find something that is important. You know, I don't want to see them like find this magical MacGuffin-ish thing.
Yeah.
I just want to see these characters just live and breathe and function normally. And to me, that's just as engaging to me.
And it really showed you the world. It really showed you the world of these characters. Yeah.
And
even though there's absolutely no, well, I mean, there's semblances of adults around there, but it's not like they're not the focus of it. It's really the focus of the kids.
And that kind of movie appeals to me the most. Just these movies that are so genuine and down to earth, and just sort of, the key word to me would be charming, in the sense that it's just a little story. It's not a big story. It's a story about how a boy deals with his insecurities, or how, even a movie like where Winnie the Pooh just spends 60 minutes trying to find honey. Like that to me is just as exciting and makes me feel so warm and happy than going to see a movie that has every ups and down, turn left and right craziness and drama and all that stuff. I get just as much enjoyment, if not more so, out of the simple idea than that. So this movie really felt like I was, when I was in that theater watching it, I just felt like I was just so relaxed, so zen. I was invigorated by the animation, by the art direction, by the voices. The casting of this movie was the best casting I've ever seen in an animated movie, hands down. Just like we discussed about how well these kids performed. They were so genuine, and the fact that they used the archive recordings, and there's a cameo voice in this movie. That was like, I'm not going to say who it is, but it was one of those things where you look at the credits and you're like, really? they got her in to do that? Like, but it was still
it seems like a very Blue Sky thing to do.
But
honestly.
At the same time, I wasn't like against it. I thought it was really funny.
It didn't really distract me. It wasn't like, oh yeah. It's kind of like with the Iron Giant, you know?
Yeah.
Where it's like the Iron Giant was voiced by
Vin Diesel.
And it's like that really wasn't a big factor to me. I just heard like this really deep, gruff, gravelly mechanical voice booming out of this robot, and I didn't think, oh, that's Vin Diesel. No, it was like, that was Iron Giant. That was the Iron Giant. It was just Vin Diesel was him.
Yeah.
And it's like, that was one of those things where it's like, oh, that's kind of cool, but it doesn't really matter to me.
Right.
You know,
I mean, he did Groot too, which is just a wooden Iron Giant.
That just says, I am Groot.
I am Groot. So like, and the children aren't these like big name stars. I think probably the most big name in it was a child. I think she was in she played like a younger sister or something in one of these Disney Channel shows. Yeah. But these kids were so genuine and professional. I mean, we keep saying the word genuine. Yeah, we keep saying faithful, but it's true.
We like. Well, I think we can. I can vouch when we can say that we really like it when child actors can act.
Yes.
And,
But yeah, I mean, I can't praise this movie enough. I mean, the fact that you've been sitting here and listening to us talk, just saying this movie's great. This movie is great. This part was great. That was awesome. This was wonderful.
And who knows? Like you might find it boring, but honestly, it's like it really this movie really spoke to us personally. And I'm not going to speak for everyone, but the folks that we were with, I would say that the general consensus was that we really enjoyed it.
Yeah, like we had a group of people. We had about 10, a little over 10 people. In our group.
It was quite a bit.
It was quite a bit. And we had people who grew up with Peanuts, never grew up with Peanuts, people who have really never read the comics and never, people who
didn't really know a whole lot about
people
it.
who are a little more cynical, people who are a little more naive, people, I mean, it was a good
We had a huge spectrum of of views.
But everybody left that theater going, yeah,
that was really good.
That was good.
Yeah.
And even people like, what else could they have done? Like, this is great.
Yeah.
So I was happy.
The good vibes all around.
There's nothing worse than bringing a bunch of people to a movie and everyone leaving going, that sucked. And they look at you.
Why did you rope me into this?
Like,
why did you make me spend $20 on a 3D movie at night?
I saw a comment from somebody who was sort of a cynic. Not on my page, but someone else who saw the Peanuts movie saying, I saw the Peanuts movie. It was really good. And they said, what did you see? The $15 or the $18 nap? Because either you get the regular ticket or the 3D ticket. Did you get the $15 or $18 nap?
And that's what I call a critic quip.
Yeah. And and it's, I mean, at this point, any critical review I've read of this movie just is out the window. Like, I do not read them because it's like you're being critical of something that, like, are you?
Well, we're getting into the discussion now about how criticism that is like, criticism is better when you can actually back yourself up to why you don't like something.
Yeah.
And it's like, even if you say like, well, I didn't like it for these points and everything, it's like that, and you can disagree with them as much as you like, it's a valid criticism. Yeah. But if you just say like, oh, that sucks.
Yeah,
that's like, what do you have to go by?
In the case of Peanuts, when someone criticizes it, and then you find out when you read the end of the review, and you're like, I never was a fan of Peanuts. Mm-hmm. I never liked Charlie Brown. I never liked Snoopy. That's when in my brain I'm like, then why the hell are you seeing this movie?
Yeah,
I mean,
but it's another thing if someone says like, I have never seen the Peanuts movie. I never really liked the cartoons, but I liked this movie. That's something that is. I mean, that would be something that I'd like to read from someone. I don't know if there's probably someone out there like that. But, rare case, sometimes that happens and sometimes it doesn't. Yeah. So, whatever. You can't change a person's mind if they already have this preconception or this notion that they're not going to like it. And that's why it's like, I like to say that I try to go into a movie with an open mind. Sometimes like I'll have this twinge of expectation, and sometimes that'll be met and sometimes it won't. But really, I try to keep an open mind about it. And I say like, okay, that was a good movie, or that was a really terrible movie, and I wish I liked it.
Right. And then you try to find constructive reasons to back that up.
Yeah, exactly.
And
that's why we do this show. That's why because we want to try to talk about it and back it up, like why we liked it.
And at this point, like especially because now the other big argument about this movie is that it would have been better if it was 2D. Why would you take something as beautiful as Schultz's line work and go see? It's like, you know what? I don't give a rat's ass if it was animated with puppets or with sand art or with paint on glass. I don't care how you interpret something. It's a tool. Mm-hmm. The fact that they, even in CG, which is such a
the way they animated it here, it might as well have been 2D, but at the same time, it's like what they did with it was really fantastic, and it looks right.
And they're being faithful to the drawings and the style of Schultz. So, like, yes, and the computer automatically wants to make everything perfect. So, to fight against the computer to make something that is so organic as these characters, and graphic in a sense, organic and graphic as these characters, it's really, like I said before, it's just visually refreshing. Yeah. And there's nothing better than going to a movie and being like, I have never seen this before.
And these characters have been marketed for like for decades.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, it's kind of difficult to not see them in different styles and in different takes. And like, I mean, even in the beginning of Charles Schultz drawings, they look nothing like what they looked like at the end of his career. I mean, it was like, it's one of those things where it's like an artist will evolve with the thing that is given to him, and it'll either be vastly different, or it's just I really can't say much more than that. It just seems like people need to understand that styles change, things change. It doesn't have to be 100% the same as what you remember it. This is another take on it, and they were faithful to the point where this can be enjoyable by a ton of people.
Yeah.
it's different to say like, okay, these people took this thing, made something really completely different with it. It either works or it doesn't, and if it falls flat on its face, it will be known. Alvin and the Chipmunks. So
I know that I said it before. I want this movie to make a lot of money. One, because I feel like it deserves it. But
two, I want to see like more movies like this.
Yeah, it's like, imagine I tweeted about it earlier today. I said, I hope this movie makes a lot of money because maybe other studios will look and be like, oh, okay, I guess we should try to making faithful adaptations of comics and cartoons. And then who knows? It might go in the complete opposite direction. They might be like, oh my God, Peanuts made millions and millions of dollars. Let's greenlight another Garfield movie. Let's do the Dagwood movie where he has to find the perfect sandwich. I don't know, like what movie would you want to see?
Well, here's the thing. Okay, here's my question to you. What would you like to see? Like any comic strip that you can think of off the top of your head, and I can already see like the wheels turning in your head right now. But let's look back at a lot of animated comic strip stuff. Like almost everything in the newspaper has been animated at some point.
Yeah.
We have like Bloom County, the Opus special.
Opus, yeah. Kathy was animated.
Doonesbury was animated. BC.
Family Circus.
Family Circus. Like I remember,
For Better or For Worse has been animated.
For Better or For Worse, I remember renting that at a warehouse one time, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's Family Circus, and I was curious if
Family Circus or For Better or For Worse.
For Better or For Worse.
Oh, okay.
Family Circus like showed up on Disney Channel every once in a while, I believe. And then there was also I'm thinking off the top of my head, Hagar the Horrible. I remember that was animated. There was some Far Side specials. Have you ever seen those?
They're really weird.
They're weird, but they're great.
Yeah.
I love them because it's like, how do you take a one strip comic and turn it into like an animated sequence of something? And it's like, it kind of worked. It was like really weird. I mean, it worked like because Far Side is weird.
Yeah.
So it was really good. And we've seen Garfield animated so much.
Asterix we've seen animated a bunch of times.
Asterix is like,
1010.
Boondocks got its own show, TV series. Mother Goose and Grimm. Did you ever see that series?
Yeah. Over the Hedge.
Yeah.
Well, maybe one that's more like the comic.
Yeah. Well.
But if there was anything I would love, there's a few. I would love to see more stuff with Opus. I would love to see something else with Bloom County. That would be amazing. I would love to see Mutts, maybe a Mutts special.
Mutts would be cute,
Would be cute to animate in that Patrick McDonald style. Would be really, really cute.
Yeah. It would be interesting to see that because like there's a lot of open gaps in those drawings.
So, it would have been fun. It would be fun to just see that in motion. Of course, Bone. I would love to see Bone get made. I mean, it's not a comic strip.
I'm going to tell you something right now, and I know it's never going to happen, but I know everyone. Everyone, as soon as I asked that question, when I said, what comic strip do you want to see turned into a movie? Calvin and Hobbes.
Yeah, but I mean, I would like to see it, but at the same time, I can't imagine. I can imagine it being animated, but I can't imagine it being faithful in a way. I don't know. I would have to give it a chance. In a way,
the Calvin and Hobbes comics, when I look at those comics, I think of them as like these are things. This Bill Watterson, the guy who drew these comics, he knew that these characters could be drawn in different ways and in different like angles and stuff like that. That would probably fit very well in sort of like a more cinematic setting. And the characters' expressions are very, recognizable and at different angles. You see like sometimes the brow will be really low. Sometimes like his eyes will be different. It's like the Peanuts, like the expressions will change to that specific drawing.
Yeah.
And I can see that with Calvin and Hobbes. And I honestly, I've been thinking about it ever since I saw the movie. I was like, God, if I could get a trailer of some sort, just like all these different scenes of all these different moments from Calvin and Hobbes throughout the years. There'd be Spaceman Spiff, there'd be like the monster drooling under the bed, there'd be like the Rosalind, there'd be
like Calvin with the duplicator and he duplicates himself.
Calvin being like hit by Hobbes when he comes in from the door, it's like all that kind of stuff. Those are all great scenes that would like fit so well together.
I would love to see it animated. I mean, it would be. I think.
Did you ever see that animation of the guy who did the Calvin and Hobbes dance? From that one strip.
I remember seeing a student film in Italy that someone did of Calvin and Hobbes, and I remember seeing it and being, wow, that was really cool, and then finding out that Bill Watterson sent them a cease and desist and had them take the video down.
Yeah.
But the thing about once something's on the internet, it never goes away, so it keeps popping up, and I see it again every once in a while.
And that's another thing. Like Bill Watterson's like here's the thing about Bill Watterson's like I understand he is very very protective of his material, and he stopped because he had like a very deep appreciation for his craft. So it's understandable that he would want to stop doing that, and he would not want to pursue it in a way that would make it more marketable.
Yeah, it's like, well, he didn't want to commercialize his creation.
Yeah, he didn't want to commercialize it, and I can really respect him for that.
Yeah.
Because when it comes to a personality of the artist, we have all different views, all different stands on what we want to do with it, and I think that should be respected. It shouldn't be like, oh, he's like a hack artist because he doesn't want to market his stuff. That's I think that and on the other side of the spectrum, and I will always argue with this, Jim Davis is also should be respected for his views on how he does his marketing, because he made something. He created this character and marketed it, and he wants it to be like commercialized, and he wants it to be all over the place.
Everybody owns something Garfield related in their house, or Snoopy related too.
Yeah,
Charlie Brown.
And that's respectable because he wanted to do that with his character, with his creation, and now it's like a household name. Bill Watterson, as much as he doesn't want to market his stuff, people love his comics. People are so, like, they will talk your head off about how much they love. Generations of people will discover
it again.
Yeah, exactly.
Without being, as much.
And you don't need marketing for that. You don't need, like, a commercialized thing or a plush to, like, realize, oh, what is this from? Oh, it's from that one comic book. No, it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, you have one side of the spectrum of the artist who is, like, you can be angry about him for not wanting to make more stuff with it, like a cartoon or a movie of some sort. But you have to respect him because that was his decision, and that's what he wanted to do with it. Because what he did is what he felt was important to him. And that's fine. You know, it's like,
I respect him for it.
Yeah, and I do. I sincerely respect him for it. And I would love to see a movie and stuff like that, but you still have to respect the artist's decision for what he does. And then on the other side of the spectrum, you have Jim Davis and Garfield, where it's like Garfield's all over the place. I still respect that guy because Garfield is a household name. I grew up with Garfield.
Yeah.
As much as the comic strips are very mediocre and like they're not funny at all, there's a charm to it.
Yeah,
you know?
I watched the specials as a kid, and I read the comic as a kid. I loved
the cartoon.
I had stuffed Garfield toys as a kid.
Yeah, one of my favorite cartoons growing up was Garfield, like Garfield and Friends, and I love U.S. You're looking at the U.S. Acres comic books that I have right there.
It bugs me that he has eyelashes.
Well, on the first couple issues, and then they evolved into something else. But yeah, it's like those characters are still with me today, and it's like I grew up with that stuff, and I was inspired by that stuff. So there is something to be respected for that as well.
Right.
And he's not a lesser artist because of his marketing
It doesn't really
ability,
matter. To me, his draftsmanship skills don't really factor into it. It really is about the fact that there are just as many people in this world who probably know about, or at least in my circles, that know about Calvin and Hobbes and know about both, and Garfield, but for different reasons. And Calvin and Hobbes and Garfield are both endearing in their own ways. And people will discover them and find them.
And that is the same with the Peanuts. It's like
and I would love to see, like you said, I'd love to see Calvin and Hobbes animated. I could see why it wouldn't be animated. I remember seeing an interview with him saying, like, he was thinking about doing one.
Yeah.
But he was like, I can't imagine a voice coming out of Calvin's mouth.
Right.
Which is like, I could see that, because how do you choose a voice?
Yeah, exactly. It's like when you read Donald Duck in a comic strip.
I imagine a completely different voice.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's so fluent.
It's like the pill that he eats in that one cartoon. It's like, Daisy, it's the new me.
Yeah. Daisy, I love you. But another thing, too, like, I was going to animate a test of Bone for Jeff Smith.
Yeah.
Because he says, you should animate something and send it to me. Send it to boneville.com. I was going to do it, and then school got in the way, and I ended up not doing it. But I I would love to see. Do what I would love to see, and we've been going on for a long time about this.
Yeah.
I would love to see, and kind of in the sense, it kind of comes back to Popeye with Gendy's Popeye movie, Gendy Tartakovsky's Popeye movie.
Yeah.
I would love to see a Popeye project that was more like the comic strip than like the shorts.
Yeah,
I would be fun. I mean, you could combine the two. Robert Altman.
There certainly are a lot of characters in the Popeye comics.
Alice the Goon, the Sea Hag, Eugene the Jeep, all of Olive Oil's family. Like, it would have been really fun. And then also another thing too, I saw it's on YouTube. I love Crazy Cat. I love it.
Yeah.
There is on YouTube, apparently back in the early or mid 2000s, Nickelodeon did a pilot for a Crazy Cat TV series that would have been stop motion.
Oh, that's interesting.
And it's really well done. And they match George Harriman's drawing style, but in stop motion. And it's really, really cool. And I love this art style. I would love to see more stuff animated of Crazy Cat and all those. But yeah, I mean, who knows? Maybe if the Peanuts movie does really well, maybe we'll hear about, more of more. I know there's a Smurfs movie coming out that's not the live action weird Pori Smurfs. It's going to be more like the Peyo style.
Yeah, and you showed me that earlier, and I saw the screenshot. I was like, yeah, it looks really cool.
Yeah, so maybe, who knows? Maybe it'll be a step in the right direction.
Yeah. And speaking of, I actually got the Smurf anthology books, which
I'm going to have to get
collects them in English, and also Spiro.
I'm so glad those are out.
And Benny Breakiron, which was a comic that I got from Germany for the longest time. It's like I couldn't read them. I knew what was going on at some point, but it's like, and they're very, very simplistic dialogue, but they're beautiful comics.
Oh yeah,
and it's I really recommend like looking these up.
Yeah.
And on that note, I would like to see a Dick Tracy movie, animated movie. Like, yeah. I mean, just because I've been reading a lot of the Dick Tracy comics, like I've been collecting those huge.
Now, aren't you just like hankering for like a nice Archie movie? Just Archie.
All right, well, let's move.
All right. On that note, now that you've soured this thought in my head.
And all right, so that is our consensus about the Peanuts, and I don't know. Do you want to keep doing this best and the worst thing, or do you want
for this movie?
Do you want to retire this?
I think we can do it depending on the movie, but in the case of this movie, I can't. There's nothing I can really say that's really bad.
Nothing comes off the top of my head that I can say is the worst. I mean,
there's nothing really bad about it.
No, nothing really comes off the top of my head. I mean, maybe. Well, the thing is, like, maybe I can say that like, there's a couple drawings that kind of, or I mean, a couple like pieces of animation that seemed very odd to me, but it didn't really distract me from the rest of the movie. It was just like, oh, that's a frame that looked wrong. So yeah, and that's just nitpicking, honestly. Compared to the rest of the movie, I mean, it's minuscule.
Yeah.
So with that said, like best and the worst, whatever. Who cares? It's
good.
The movie was really
Please
good.
go see this movie.
Please go see this.
Tell
movie.
people to go see this movie. Force them by gunpoint.
I don't know if I'd go that far. Well, I mean, you did kill Star Fox. I mean,
I did kill him,
you bastard,
with his eyes open, staring right at me.
You're a soldier of Andros, aren't you?
I refuse to acknowledge that reference.
Oh, well. All right, and that is our animated anarchy for this week. And if you would like to discuss anything else about this movie, your experiences with the Peanuts, maybe even let us know what kind of comic strip you would like to see animated in a movie, because that would be really interesting discussion to talk about. Go to facebook.com/animatedanarchycast. That is where you can find most of our stuff, where we post latest episodes, and also any discussions or ask us questions on the show. And also you can follow us on Twitter. You're at...
Sorry.
Well, we had to put that in somewhere. I guess we didn't talk about that.
A guy who draws.
Yes. And I am at AWD Twit, hopefully, following this weekend, considering the circumstances. I won't go into details, but you can also follow us on Twitter, and definitely Follow us on iTunes and Stitcher, and if you can, please give us a favorable review. It would help spread the word about the show, and it would get other people to recognize us as a legitimate podcast business.
Please.
Yeah.
I'm begging you.
Yeah. And I'm also periodically posting old episodes on YouTube.
Yes.
Which
with hilarious screenshots.
I can't remember what episode 2 was. Was it? Oh, that was Powerpuff Girls movie, right?
Yes.
So I'm gonna have to find screenshots.
I could find them for you.
Yeah.
Or not.
Yeah. I'm sure, like, if we looked for them the same way we did the screenshots of B-Movie, there'd be a lot of frames that just look the same. Like, for
that's true. A lot of wasted bandwidth on that site.
Yeah. So anyway, that is the Animated Anarchy podcast for today. I am Andrew Dickman.
And I'm Mike Ruocco.
And we will see you next time. Bye-bye.